Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I'm so thrilled to be here, and as we continue to celebrate the men and women who are working hard all across the state of Mississippi to make this a great place to live, work, and play. Very quick quote to share, and then we'll move over to our first guest today. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. Pablo Picasso. And the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purposes of life is to give it away. Our next guest understands that about as well as everybody. He's spent his entire adult life just about giving back to public service, and it's the mayor of the city of Gulfport, my friend, Mayor Billy Hewes. How you doing, Billy?
Man, I'm good, and that is a great quote to start the day. That's really spot on.
I tell you, you know what's interesting, man? It'd be interesting to hear how you feel about this. But the older we get, certainly the older I get, I'm sure you feel the same way. The more you are aware of what legacy is, and legacy is not about us being attached to it, but it's about putting things in place that will just continue to kind of grow as we go forward. Billy Knight, our good friend over in Moss Point, often says he's planting trees that he'll never see the shade from. But the purpose in life is to give your gift away, man. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, I like to live by you get what you give, and that's pretty simple and straightforward. But I think the more we give, we get more back by giving of ourselves and getting involved and engaged. So it's so important. But also, you got to acknowledge that any success we get is really from the lessons learned from people that came before us. The old saying, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and so those that came before us, and hopefully we can set a foundation that will continue those legacies and be meaningful down the road. I think that's what Billy's getting at.
One of those giants is George Schlogel. I can't quickly move on from him. People often say that when you and I pass or others pass, the lights aren't going to blink. Life's going to go on. But if you're ever going to define that quote about giving your gift back, George Schlogel defined that. If you're ever going to talk about legacy, he defined that. When I had two long conversations with him, one just 3 weeks before he passed away. But I said, how do you want to be remembered? And he immediately said to me, and you know this from the tribute that we did for him, he said, I don't want to be remembered. He just wanted to be he wanted to have a small part in putting things in place that continued to happen after he passed away. And he didn't even care if his name was identified with them or not. But think about the number of things that George put in place through you, through me, through his work in the city, through his work in the community, and probably hundreds, if not thousands of others. I mean, he really defined what legacy is all about, didn't he?
Yeah, if you don't worry about accolades and what may come and just focus on the task at hand, things are going to happen the way they're supposed to. And if you lead by example, you have to have humility and service as foundations. And I think that kind of summed up George. And, one of the things that he shared with me early on and where I started my career from a community standpoint was through the JCs. And they were all about service to humanity. And he embodied a lot of that. He was very giving, very selfless. He was very, was able to forge a career that allowed him to do a lot of these things, which was fantastic because he didn't have to. And that's the important thing to remember. We have a lot of examples like this across this coast and you kind of said it about George. You can't imagine an event, whether it's going to church or going to the symphony or just going to a community picnic or out and about. You saw George and Pecky, and they were quite a team. You almost didn't see one without the other when they were out socializing. And so they have a very remarkable legacy that their family should be extremely proud of.
There's literally no doubt about it. I thought the way you started your tribute, and I thought I've listened to it a couple of times because I thought that your stories, your tribute, John Hairston's tribute, had Jerry St. Pé and Dave Dennis and others. They were all terrific. But the way you started yours was, I think, perfect. I think it was the JC Creed that you literally just read that. And I thought to myself as I listened to that, Billy, because I've listened to it a couple of times. I thought to myself, the world needs to hear that, doesn't it?
It's one of the best documents I've ever come across, and been fortunate to do a lot of reading and sometimes memorize a lot of creeds and be just familiar with them. But that really is the most comprehensive, complete document that I've ever seen as far as talking about what we should be about.
It is, and man, did he live that by that. The story. One other quick note: the story that John Hairston told about him keeping the key to the mailroom in his pocket over all those years as a reminder of how important trust is. And I mean, he was literally a walking history book. There's probably nothing you could ask him that he couldn't give you some perspective about.
He loved history, but he loved this coast and its history in particular, and he would jump at any opportunity to educate folks. You know, like John said, look, you ask him a question, you may be there a while, but he's going to give you a complete answer, and he's going to really just you could just feel his enthusiasm when he talked about where we come from and where we can go.
Well, there's no doubt about that. So, man, it's the seasons are changing outside. I made a post. In fact, just in the last couple of days, it's like we went from summer to fall all in one fell swoop. It happens so fast, but almost immediately, especially on the water, you start seeing different birds showing up. And I had a family of otters that went by. I mean, it's a cool time to be in coastal Mississippi, isn't it?
Look, it's the good thing about it. We can be outdoors just about year round, and we get a little bit of a taste of a change of season. Not a true one that you have a little bit north of us, but I wouldn't be anywhere else. So it is nice. The colors change. The water changes. The flora and fauna act differently, and so it's just kind of part of our pattern.
It really is part of our pattern. I saw where you guys had a terrific Halloween celebration at the city. In fact, I saw a picture that was posted out in front of the city hall where I'm assuming all those were employees and others. It's fun to have a team of people where you can enjoy some festivity, isn't it?
So, still saying you take your job seriously, but not yourself. And it's important for us to learn the human side of one another when we can. We don't get to interact as much as we'd like, but when we have a little friendly competition between the departments and everybody kind of has a little fun at each other's expense, the funniest one for me was Jeff Bruni and Wayne Miller. You talk about Mutt and Jeff. One's this tall, but they came dressed as twins. But everybody was really into it, and from decorating their departmental areas to just coming to City Hall in a neat little celebration. So we need to kind of take a breath, take a step back sometime, and make sure we're caring about the people we work with, but also trying to create an environment where we enjoy what we do.
Well, look, as we start to kind of enjoy a little bit of Christmas in the air, two things come to mind, and we'll kind of chat about both of them. But one is harbor lights. I mean, this United States renowned harbor lights display at the Small Craft Harbor. And then, of course, man, the second cook-off, gumbo cook-off. And that you got to be looking forward to both of those. But let's start with harbor lights. It has become something that has really defined the winter festival time for the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And it just gets better every year, doesn't it?
It's kind of a beast now. It came with a really great concept, and it was just like what Cruising the Coast took when extending tourism from summertime, which was our traditional, and we stopped there. It brought that through fall, and now we have harbor lights, so it takes it through the end of the year and gives everybody something to do. And it's hard to believe we're coming up on, a few years. It'll be 10 years that we've been doing harbor lights. And, they did the movie surrounding it and all that. But we're having families saying this is part of our tradition, and we will travel for hours to get here, stay in Gulfport along the coast, and just enjoy this and take it in. And I still have people, even locals, that said, well, have you seen it? Well, of course I've seen it. I said, have you been in it? No, I just drive by, see it on 90. He said, well, you hadn't experienced it yet. It really is an immersive experience. You talk about a family night out. What's cool is for locals, we've got the early part of the week, there are reduced tickets, discount tickets for anybody local to come and enjoy it if they want to avoid the crowd. Because on the weekends, if the weather cooperates, we've got thousands upon thousands of people on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights coming to this wonderful, wonderful holiday experience.
And you've got, and it showcases, first of all, it showcases what we love, the harbor. The small craft harbor. It showcases the Mississippi Aquarium. You've got great parking at the CTA Authority parking garage, and this incredible construction is underway now. You got to be excited about that. We'll talk a little bit more about that actually when we come back on the other side, and when we continue our conversation with the mayor of Gulfport, Billy Hewes. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I pulled up Gulfport Harbor Lights, which is what the mayor of the city of Gulfport and I, Billy Hewes, were just talking about, by the way, coming to you from the Citizens Bank studio. And 51,000 followers of the Harbor Lights on Facebook. I mean, that's just Facebook. I'm sure that on Instagram it's doing well as well. But and that just shows you, and I'm sure if we were to go look at who is engaging in Harbor Lights, there were literally from all over the United States. People have been touched in one way or the other from across the United States. And your point, I want us to really focus on this for a second. Your point a second ago about driving down Highway 90 and seeing the beautiful lights. When they say this is a magical show, they really do mean it. It's not just lights. It's got all kinds of stuff that's going on. And if you're not immersing yourself in it by actually coming on the grounds and taking it in, you're missing it, aren't you?
Look, it is an entire experience, and you have everything from, little s'more stations where you can cook your marshmallows, to Santa Claus visits, to the candy store, to choral groups coming in. And so each night there's usually something a little bit different, but just that million-plus lights that we have, the displays, the animatronic reindeers, it's just a really great thing for adults and kids alike. But it is a memorable experience that families, like you said, they come from near and far to experience it. Fortunately, our market, the more people discover about it, that, we're an easy flying market, but we really are a bread and butter drive-to market. So, you take a 300-mile radius and you're going to find folks coming here on a pretty regular basis. So it's exciting. Now, let me tell you, it's a heavy lift for our city and for our workers. There's a lot to do, and they start constructing this in early October, so you can see it start to take shape. What's funny, it's ironic, really, about a week after it's over, we have people say, "Why is that stuff still up?" Well, I can't believe they hadn't taken that stuff down even a month later. It takes a month or two to get it down because it's at a big, big production, and it's handled mostly by a lot of city workers.
Listen, it's just a quick side note. We got grandkids as you do, so we do lights at our house. We went through a stage where we did lights and then we didn't do so much for a while, and then it seems like it's kind of coming back again because the kids really enjoy it. But it literally, Billy, it feels like I just put all that stuff back in the attic and it's time to go take it down again. And it's interesting. Is it because we're getting older? I don't know what that is, but it seems like our lives are being defined and how fast our lives are going by when we take it down and when we put it back up again. But boy, this year has really flown by, hasn't it?
That's funny, and I'm trying to find reasons to put less and less up and give as much of this stuff away to my kids, but they don't seem to want it. So they got their own stuff, but it's still neat. And yeah, we go the extra mile for when they do come over, particularly with grandkids, and it's worth it. But golly, it's becoming more like work every year. So
I know it. I'm a lot more careful on the ladder. I can tell you that, man. I'm definitely more careful doing that. Hey, listen, we talked about the CTA shuttle and the parking garage right there next, adjacent to the Mississippi Aquarium that people can park at. But, you can't mention that without understanding that this campus is about to come to fruition with the overpass. It's very uniquely designed and functionally different overpass. What's the latest on that? And tell us more about that.
So, Kevin Coggin has been CEO of Coast Transit for quite some time, and he is a remarkable partner in finding ways to get things done. And this is a public transit component, and there's nothing like it in America. It's not your typical straightaway overpass. It's kind of an elegant design, and it's got the pedestrians in mind as far as accessing different points at Jones Park. You're going to have that tramway where you can, take certain vehicles over, connecting the aquarium property on the north to Jones Park on the south, and that's a huge benefit, particularly from a safety standpoint. We have about 100,000 plus people every single year from Thanksgiving to New Year's, not to mention what happens the rest of the year. So to allow people this means to get across is going to be fantastic. It was scheduled initially to be open like late spring next year, but these folks with Maloof Construction, they've done such a remarkable job that it is going to, looks like we're going to open right after the first of the year and have the public have access to that. So it's a really great addition to our entire downtown and marina complex.
So I mentioned also the Gumbo Fest. First of all, what a great venue and what a cool thing this time of year. This year it's on November the 18th. Tell us more about that.
So last year we had great turnout. We had so many folks come. We just about ran out of gumbo, so it was really good. But it's perfect time of the year, cold weather. Everybody's thinking about that. We had great competition from folks across the coast with their teams, and we also had a nice little competition between the cities with the Mayor's Cup. So we're planning on doing all that again, so we hope folks will come out and support it like they did. Of course, it's hard to beat, trying different types of gumbo, and they're all pretty doggone good.
They really are. I do remember, man, it was it got to be slim pickings on the gumbo. There were so many people there, and that's a great thing to do. Hey, listen, I got a show coming up in the next couple of days with Clay Williams from the airport. But boy, the Gulfport Biloxi International Airport continues to knock it out of the park. I mean, just adding one nonstop after another. You got to be thrilled with this.
I think it speaks to how we continue to grow as a community, and folks, I had no idea experience. I talk to folks on a pretty regular basis. These groups have never been the first time, and I asked them, is this your first time? And always it is. I said, well, you coming back? And just about everyone says, oh yeah, we're coming back and we're bringing people. So the airport makes it easy, and as much commerce as we have, I think Clay and his board are going to continue to make a huge difference. You got Joe Spraggins and Dave Dennis and the General Clark from.
Clark Griffith, yeah.
From Biloxi, and they have been on there for quite some time, but they're making a big difference in the opportunities for our folks to get out and with a lot of ease and convenience right out of their hometown airport.
Yeah, it's really been interesting keeping up. I mean, all the twists and turns during the pandemic, but the fact that we have a diversified opportunity there. We've got business travel and recreational and tourism travel, and of course we've got military travel. The charter service that the casinos are doing incredibly important to the airport. So it's a diversified airport, and they're not just that authority is not just focused on the airport that people know when they fly in and out of here, but they've got a big footprint there that they have to tend to, including like an office park and hotel, et cetera. And I agree, they're doing a good job, and Clay's been a great communicator to this show about the latest there. So it's been great to see that. So the aquarium continues to move forward. What's the latest that you're hearing about the aquarium?
Well, the coolest thing is they have transformed the Rising Tides Gallery. It's a building that we had conferences and conventions in, and they thought there might be a better use based on customer feedback. And they made it an entire gallery with multiple new aquariums, big giant tanks, everything from poison dart frogs to tropical reefs to Pacific octopus. It is a really cool venue that is air conditioned, so people can get out of the weather, but just it's got its own vibe. But it has become. We had a meeting yesterday just to kind of assess things, and it's already really ramped up the quality of experience, and it was good to begin with. I tell you what, the biggest surprise is probably the beavers. You talk about busy as a beaver. These critters, they keep and constantly moving, but they're kind of an exhibit when you first walk in now, and so. The veterinary staff's excited about it. Folks coming in. So, make it part of your Christmas holiday again to come and see, because there's always something new at that aquarium, and they're doing a fantastic job there. We retooled the board, and they've been very proactive as well.
Yeah, the board is terrific, man. It's a group of very successful business people who don't let a lot of grass grow on them. They're very focused on trying to do the right thing. And I think the key is this. I mean, you got to constantly change it up. You got to give people something new to go see, and they've really been focused on doing that. So there's no getting stale at the aquarium these days, and that's great to see, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I'm telling you, it's just, and they're programming differently too. They've got a new marketing director in there, and he has brought an entirely new dynamic. As a matter of fact, for Halloween, everything was themed. They had a maze for kids to go through, which was a totally separate exhibit that they set up. But at Christmas time, they've got the mermaids coming in, and so I think there's going to be an opportunity for some sort of tea or meal or some function with mermaids. So there'll be Christmas presentations and promotions. So it's very dynamic experience.
You and I have had many visits over the last 3 years about the blue economy and how important that is. I had just a terrific visit on this show about a couple of weeks ago with Joe Paul, the new president. We're all proud of Joe Paul for getting that position. But, obviously they're really strategically focused now. They're working harder to understand how the coast fits into their overall mission. It's something that Southern Miss has always been thinking about, and there's work to be done there. But the relationship that Southern Miss has with local economy, long list of potential partners down here in the offerings that they're going to be offering is really important, and they're really focused on listening, like Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College does as well. When we come back on the other side, we'll talk about Ocean Arrow's opening of their headquarters and why that's important to the city of Gulfport. We'll see you after this with Billy Hewes.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I have the mayor of the city of Gulfport, my friend Billy Hewes. And when we went to break, I mentioned the blue economy and the evolution of the blue economy. Billy, when we heard about Ocean Arrow, this company might be coming to Gulfport and designing these Triton vehicles that are both autonomous for underwater and above water. Man, this if you think about how fast this train has gone down the track, it's been quick. And now here we are in October, having the celebration of their new headquarters. They have moved quick, haven't they?
They have, and you look at things like this, like, oh my gosh, this is an overnight success. But with economic development, there are a lot of things that have to get put into play, years in advance of you seeing the success and the reality of something like Ocean Arrow today. You mentioned Joe Paul, and he's bringing a new dynamic. We talked about the enthusiasm right there. So it's very contagious. Attitudes are contagious. But we've been talking about the potential and what might could happen on this coast and how we need to become really the next research triangle if it's possible, because there's nothing exists like this on the Gulf of Mexico. You've got research institutes of world renown on the east and west coast with Scripps and Woods Hole. But now I believe that what is happening at the state port, driven by the Gulf Blue initiative at Southern Miss, that is going to make the difference. And we're really starting to see a new tech hub emerge as a result of that. And we need to talk about the Roger Wicker Center that was just opened for oceanographic sciences. But Ocean Arrow is one of those that they came down, they found our cost of living, our trainable workforce, all the things we talk about, and they moved their company from San Diego, California, where for the rent they're paying, for the labor costs and everything we talked about, it is 10 times that on the West Coast and the East Coast to get this type of proximity to the water to do the research that they're trying to do. So we offer a lot. And, Naval Oceanographic and NOAA, they are down here and they are relocating a lot of their scientists, hundreds of high-tech workers down here to Gulfport at the Roger Wicker Center for Oceanographic Sciences. Southern Miss built their research facility and their school for oceanographic sciences on the front portion of the port. This is actually back on what I call the top of the horseshoe. And so the proximity to that water is important to these scientists. It's important for our research, and it sends a great message. We talk about changing our economic profile. Well, with these type of build outs, we're changing our physical profile of our city as well. And so they're a lot of people have done a real long and heavy lift to get us to this point. You know that one of the things that started 3 years ago is a commission of 3 ships, 3 research vessels. I think they're about 200 feet long. Again, East Coast is getting one, West Coast is getting one, and guess what? We're getting a third. And it should be here in about a year. So there's just a lot of excitement and opportunity that people are waking up to, and it's a result of some really, really intense work.
It's a small world. Maybe you and I have talked about this before, but incidentally, Oceanair is projecting about 500 full-time jobs. They're not playing. And you think about the work that they're doing, and it's not just about ocean exploration, but it is about, in some cases, gathering data that's critical to the U.S. military mission. And you think about China and all the unrest around the world. Yeah, Oceanair is going to have a big role, probably beyond anything we even know about. I'm sure there's going to be some secret part. But the small world part is that Mark Henderson, the great entrepreneur from coastal Mississippi, had his company and all these sophisticated radar designs that he had developed and had all these patents related to that. And as it turns out, he was working with Oceanair when they were in San Diego, and now he's head of R&D for them here. So it's an exciting evolution. Again, it's a small world, but it's good to see them. You mentioned the Roger F. Wicker Center for Ocean Enterprise. I mean, what a great addition that is. It's happening. And so, you can have this vision for how we're going to embrace the blue economy, but the proof is in the pudding now, isn't it?
Look, with our strategic port, that classification that they got a few years ago, again, you put things in order so it all comes together. Southern Miss establishing, their presence there and really kind of retooling their entire curriculum to focus more and make the most of folks and what the needs are going to be for advanced education down here. There are just so many elements that have really lined up, and the state's played a big role in this as well. So it has been a great deal of collaboration from the federal and state and local governments to the private sector and the education community. So it's very, very exciting, and we think that there's going to be a lot of development and build out continue. We're seeing in Harrison County in particular, but across the coast, a lot of demand for good housing, and we're thinking that the market's going to rise to meet that as well.
Exciting times, man. One development typically leads to another. You think about Ingalls and Chevron and the outgrowth that happened there. You think about Stennis and the blue chip industries that are surrounding the incredible work that's happening there. Same thing's going to happen here. I mean, there's no doubt in your mind, is there?
Well, it goes back to what you were talking about, the airport and people coming in and out. The more folks who come here, particularly if they're working at these entrants where they have to interface with D.C. or the East or West Coast, again, the more people coming in here, the more demand goes up, and that creates more opportunity for us to make it easier for folks to come and go. But again, all those factors that you and I talk about and you talk about on the show on this coast, the cost of living, the ease to get around, we got some rush hour issues in some pockets, but for the most part, this is an easy community to traverse one end to the other.
It is, and of course we said all that. It's all happening within sort of the footprint of the state port of Gulfport, but I mean, things continue to happen at the state port that are positive. So, and if we can get that deeper channel, I think, it could open up some real opportunities for us. And there's still a tremendous amount of energy focused on that. How often does that come up in conversations?
It depends on what group you're talking to, but with our federal delegation, they're certainly made aware and they're trying to carry that ball, and they're well placed to try to make some things happen. And you talk about when you're working with the Corps of Engineers and all the environmental groups and concerns. Excuse me. It's kind of like repairing a pier. It takes a lot longer than it should because of the federal regulations and strictures that come through FEMA. So it's not just FEMA. It's a lot of these other groups that you have to. And when you're talking about millions and sometimes billions of dollars to do this type of dredging to make sure that our commercial activities are robust. There's a lot of conversations over a lot of years. So we've been working towards that end. And, you just don't do it for the sake of doing it. If we get it to a certain depth, that opens the door for a lot of different types of ships, a lot different types of cargo. And so just more opportunities. So it's not just about maintenance dredging. It's about opening more opportunities for this place where middle America gets a lot of their products right through our port.
I had Woody Bailey on celebrating this year's Cruising the Coast. They beat the record by a mile. Unbelievably, over 10,000 cars registered. And, we talked about the headquarters. They couldn't pick a better place to have a headquarters for Cruising the Coast, could they?
I would agree. Centennial Plaza continues to, again, people weren't aware of the resort that we have there, and it is a true Southern resort. And again, they're blown away by just the ease and under those oaks and all. But Woody and them do a great job with the setup. Again, there's enough room to spread their legs. But I'm telling you, as they grow, even that facility, they're challenged to get people in and out and weave around and stuff. But what a great problem to have. So they do a good job. They bring entertainment in so people hang out. They put a lot of heads in beds, and that's kind of what we got to do with tourism and bring folks in. We're having discussions about enhancing things out at the Gulfport Sportsplex and making sure that we continue to have that economic engine drive some things from bringing more tournaments in from further and further away. So when they drive in, they got to stay for a while.
So one of the things I did prior to meeting with having the show with Woody is I did a social media analysis and looked at it from car collectors, from attendees, from local business owners, local people who participate in it, don't have cars but just still go and enjoy the shows. And I pulled 7 quotes from this assessment that I did. And I'm not going to read any of them now, but I read all of them to Woody, and every single one of them was positive in its own right, with sort of looking at it from a different point of view. But it is, one of the things that Ann and I, we drove from the house on Back Bay to church on the Sunday, sort of the final day. Some people hanging around that Sunday even, enjoying the cars, lots of people still packing up and whatever. And I took the ride down the beach, Billy, and I couldn't find trash. I mean, it was, you're talking about, when you go camping, leave it better than it was before you got there. They did that. I mean, it is truly a best practice. When we're at the end of the segment, when we get on the other side, we'll talk about why it's important to have a single promoter that coordinates with this. You're thinking about 3 counties, 12 cities. The ability to sort of keep everything in check. And, this is really a best practice. This one that we ought to all focus on. Traffic's always going to be a challenge, especially when you have a successful event like Cruising the Coast. But beyond that, terrific event. We'll see more about that when we get on the other side with the mayor of the city of Gulfport, Billy Hewes. From the Citizens Bank studio, I'm pleased to have my friend, the mayor of the city of Gulfport, Billy Hewes. When we went to break, we were talking about Cruising the Coast and its incredible success. But, you got to, I think this notion of a single promoter so that you don't have a bunch of pop-up things going on all over the place, and, the kind of people we're bringing to town. Diversity is important here, too. You got people from all walks of life coming from all over the country. Three, I think, Canada, Germany, England. I don't know where else they came from, but very, very successful. And it is a best practice for the coast, isn't it?
Yeah, you talk about good, clean fun. You just got folks that come in and they've got disposable income. They want to experience things locally, so they eat at a lot of our restaurants. It's an experience for these folks when they come down. And fortunately, most of them stay for multiple days. They invest in these toys that they have. And we always like folks to come to town. But one thing we talk about and we watch is, events and promoters that come to town. And the ones that are organized, they really have it together, and they put on good shows, and they bring in really good crowds that, quite frankly, behave themselves and are concerned about leaving it better than they found it, because they want to leave a good impression, and they want to come back to someplace nice. And we go to great efforts to make this coast presentable. And it's appreciated when folks take the same care when they come and go. And that's not always the case with every single group. And that's something we wrestle with. How do we be accommodating without, quite frankly, somebody taking advantage of our goodwill and hospitality? I started talking about you get what you give, and that's an expectation. And some things, just local, we work with about 10% of the population, maybe 20 at a stretch, but they often trash where we live, and it's disgusting. And but it is a challenge with illegal dumping and litter. But back to these events and folks that come in, man, if you want to come have a good time and you're a good person, wherever you're from, what your background is, we don't care. We want you here. But let's have a good time together and keep it clean.
And every community wrestles with this, whether it's South Beach and Miami, whether it's, coastal Alabama or the panhandle of Florida, every community wrestles with this. And that's why, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, you have to have city ordinances and approaches to doing these things that are at least trying to keep it safe and trying to keep it clean and trying to protect everybody. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, especially with certain events. That is for sure. Hey, Billy, you got a lot on your mind these days. What's the top of mind for you right now?
Look, you talk. This is a segue into personal responsibility and how we act and conduct ourselves. And there are a lot of folks that expect government to solve every stinking problem out there, and that's not our role. And so we've had a great year. We're coming off a budget cycle, and not just to show appreciation for our first responders, but understanding the necessity in this market to make sure that they're compensated properly, that they're respected appropriately, and that they have the tools to get out there and do their job. We gave a bump in this budget to our fire and police, it's meaningful to us. It's meaningful to them, but it also sends a message in our community where our priorities are as far as having a safe community for people to live, work, and play, as we talk about, and have the confidence that if something does go sideways, we're going to be able to respond appropriately. So that has been on our mind. But as we transition into this season of Thanksgiving, the blessings and the holidays of Christmas, and coming off of a fun time with Halloween, this is a neat time of the year for all of us. And it's special on this coast because we can get out and enjoy it. But I would like people, if you see a city worker in any of our cities, show some appreciation because they do a remarkable job, and most of it's behind the scenes, not appropriately appreciated, and they're doing a bang-up job to make this Gulf Coast special, and it really is.
I remember, when I worked at Mobile Medic a long time ago, and then after that, I worked full-time for a period of time. Then I worked part-time for a period of time. And I remember going to a fire once, and Mayor Jack Barnett was there handing out water to the firemen. But, we've had a long list of mayors that have really had tremendous respect for and done everything in their power to make our first responders feel appreciated and supported. I mean, that's true, though, for the city of Gulfport, isn't it?
Without a doubt, there's nothing. Most of the time, I don't have to ask them to do anything because they're so professional. They know exactly what needs to be done. I can't tell you how often people have had our medical rescue teams respond to emergency or situation at their home for their loved one, and how our men and women really conduct themselves with care, compassion, but also certainty as far as what needs to be done. So I couldn't ask for a better group of professionals, particularly out of our fire and police, but I can say that about all our departments. There's great leadership in this city. Again, sometimes you don't hear about it until it goes sideways, and then the Facebook mafia gets involved and wants to comment on stuff that, while they may mean well, some don't mean well. They want to get me character assassination and don't really care about the facts behind it, but how we get to where we are. But we're, where we need to make changes, we're adapting, we're working it. But a lot of times, governing is hard, but we're very blessed to have the folks we do leading the charge. It's
hard to be a public servant in the social media world that we live in today. The good news is there's a lot of people who don't say anything who really appreciate you. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose in life is to give it away. And you're doing a great job at that. And I appreciate you spending some time with us today, my friend.
Make sure everybody votes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.